Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond, How to Get Out of Babylon. And I want to do a just a brief introduction. I mentioned this book before. There's some things I like about it. There's a lot of things not to like about it, but a little background on it. I was told about it by a very interesting individual, a woman, military. I met her through the Project Appleseed. She was a firearms instructor. She was a military trained sniper, blah, 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 blah. And I'll tell another story some other time. But we had occasion to do some, shooting with her. And I wish I had gotten my rifle and had her check it out. I didn't. I regret that. But she had a bad leg, and so we were going to go down to where we're shooting from, and it's down a hill and pretty steep and rocky and everything. And I asked my friend, can I take her down in your truck? And he goes, sure. So I drove her down. So I had like 30 seconds with her. And I said, just in case we never get a chance to talk again, I believe that the Ozark Plateau is going to be the major safe place in the continental United States, maybe the world. And she goes, wow, that's interesting. Because the first Appleseed shoot I taught at, I was 1/3 of the way up the man's driveway, and God spoke to me and told me, this is where you're going to live. And I said, here in this farm? And he says, no, here in, Missouri. So, quite interesting. So corroboration, instant, rapport. We talked. I gave her a whole bunch of health things because she's in bad health. But she's the one that told me about this book and highly recommended it. Okay. I just say that she was tough. And I heard a comment from one of the guys that trained under her, a guy that supposedly knew what he was doing, hunter, thought he was a good shot and everything. And he said, man, she cuts your balls off and doesn't give them back until you earn them. So, she was a tough bird. So anyway, that's where I first heard about this book and read it, and has a lot of good things to say about ants and grasshoppers, and I want to, a lot of rough language in it, so I'm going to pre-qualify that, try to get an idea. I do want to cover it. He also talks about VRSEs, voluntary random support groups, VSRG, something like that. About, America is the only place where this happens. A barn raising, community effort. Only place where it happens in the world, in the entire world. So one of the reasons why we've, done what we've been able to do in the world. So I want to touch on those two things, ants and grasshoppers and the voluntary random, groups of help. So, because we're going to need those to survive. That needs to come back or get here or be strengthened where it exists at all. Where I moved my family to, the farm there, there's, I tell this people this, try to move to a place where everybody that lives around here is better prepared than you're going to be. Even though you've been a prepper, even though we've been prepping since 1980, when we moved into that region, we were, pretty much the least qualified, the least prepared. That's where you want to go. And that's just to say that the neighbor around you, he's got cattle, he's got food storage, he's got meat on the hoof, crops in the ground. One guy had 100 goats, that's meat on the hoof, crops in the ground. They're all gardeners. Some of them are very, very good gardeners. So, here we are, city slickers that have been prepping, we got our buckets of wheat, whoopee, a bucket of wheat. There's a book called, A Bucket of Wheat, and, how to survive with a bucket of wheat or whatever like that. I don't know. So anyway, what do you do with that bucket of wheat? That's the question. So, this book has got some really good things to say. So I'm just going to, the one here, and this is going to be really brief, unless I get to talking, and then it won't be. But, why did it do that? I don't have any idea. Oh, the screen went dull and then been sitting too long. See, I've already overshot my welcome on my timer on my phone. Tablet. All right. And if you don't know, I got a, I don't know why I got two of them, but, you know, I thought I was getting with one of these a tripod. It shows tripod, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's not, but these things are phenomenal. And they came the same day that I did the video on X-Men. So, see the X there? All right. It's a man. It's X-Man. See that? Pretty cool. Serendipity. No, synchronicity. Synchronicity. Jersey. There's a X-Man. So, but they're phenomenal. I can slide the tablet in there. It locks down, which is the top. Blah, blah, blah. It's got this lock mechanism here. Turn that. Boom. Locks it in. That one has it's already screwed into the quick detach on my tripod, which I had. You know, I had an old tripod I got there at the thrift store or something. Goodwill, $3. Not bad. Okay, so I've got better, you know, I can move, and I brought from the last trip here, brought a desk chair, tall back desk chair, which is really nice, along with the wheelchair, the Professor Xavier wheelchair, from the dawn of existence. And then if I could get that in there, on the back of that is my tuning element sweater, my $10,000 sweater as I call it, alpaca sweater from Ecuador. From, you know, I don't know how many thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars my partner spent on cigars and cigar cutters and blah, 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 when it was my technology, my design for the insignia, my research going back to 3rd grade, for crying out loud. And the name tuning element, meaning, you know, what we were doing was bracelets and, you know, different things, basically bracelets that would provide your body a touch point, a tuning element to tune it to the Earth's frequencies. So 7.83 hertz primarily, and we did a whole bunch of frequencies, but we imprinted frequencies in that bracelet. So when he fired me, I just should have, you know, just started sending out emails and stuff to other dealers, say, hey, do you want the technology? Because, you know, it was my technology. I didn't. I just let it go, like I walked away from, you know, marriage and whatnot, so whatever. We make decisions and we live with them. So, and I was just in a total daze, too, of funk and whatever. All right, so the reason I wanted to touch on this real quick is because I didn't remember this at all. I remembered a lot of the book. I remembered the ants and grasshoppers. I vaguely remembered the voluntary random support groups. And that may or may not be the right term, but we'll get to that in another minute, in another while. But the thing that I did not remember was two things happened. In the second decade, I'm going to start reading here, if you want to follow along. In the second decade of the 21st century, the world is struck by two catastrophes. A new mini ice age. I could have had a heads up. I could have done my research. I thought this was science fiction. I did not, and that's my bad. My bad. I ran across this book in it's when we were doing Appleseed, whatever the year that was. It was a long time ago. I'll try to put a date on it in my mind, but 2010, 11, whatever. It was after this book was printed, came into print. So I could kick myself. Okay, I missed it. Totally missed it. A new mini ice age, and nearly simultaneously a plague that dwarfs any in recorded history. Rising out of the disaster is a character known as Bandit 6, an American Army officer caught up in the struggle to rebuild the world and prevent the fall of his homeland. Despite the best efforts... Pause. I need to have a checklist. All right. So, I didn't have the headset plugged in. I'll check it. If it's bad, I will, do it over. I'm at 10 minutes already. I'd hate to have to redo that, but I will do so. All right. So, caught up in the best efforts to rebuild, blah, 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 blah. Despite the best efforts of politicians, both elected and military. Always. You know. History repeats itself. I'll tell you. What Hannibal could have done had he the support of the Carthaginian Senate. There would have been no Rome. Pure and simple. I mean, he would have eliminated Rome instead of going the other direction. Carthaga delenda est. You know, Cato said Carthage must be destroyed, and Rome did destroy Carthage. So, all right. The Last Centurion is a memoir of one possible future, a world that is a dark reflection of our own. Written blog style, it pulls no punches in its description of junk science, bad strategy, and organic farming. Not to mention all three at once. Yeah, one of the sorriest things about the book is his ranting about organic farming. Oh, I'll tell you. I am your centurion, quote, I am your centurion. This America shall not fall. John Ringo's novels are peopled with three-dimensional characters and spiced with personal drama as well as tactical finesse. Library Journal. John Ringo's done it again. Ghost is a complete adrenaline rush filled with non-stop kick-ass action and hair-raising suspense. Richard Marcinko on Ghost, selected from Audiophile as an Earphones Award winner. Marcinko was a Navy SEAL, blah, blah, blah. Wrote a book on it. So, and a lot of his other books, I've read reviews of them, and there's some really bad stuff. He's not a consistent author. A lot of really gross stuff that I wouldn't waste my money on the book. So just real quick here, I'm going to read this. It's 2 pages on the screen here. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you realize it, but both bits of news hit the same week. The winter and the flu. Most people didn't notice the one my dad sent me for months, but it was reported the same week. The article my dad sent me was from a British source. See, there was a solar physicist in Britain who had sort of gotten out of the solar physics field and entered a long-range weather forecasting field. Weather, that is. We all know, Lord God, do we know, that all the baloney about greenhouse gases and, quote, man-induced global warming, unquote, was so much horse shit. But back then it was all global warming, CO2 will kill us all. Man, we wished we'd had that sort of CO2, didn't we? But the thing about this guy, I don't recall his name in it, I would say, put a name in here to do your research immediately. The one I would know to tell you is John Casey. I don't know if he's British or not. I don't know if that's the guy he's talking about. It doesn't make any difference. But John Casey has been preaching this for a long time, for decades now. Dark winter, cold sun, dark winter, and his latest is upheaval. So you want to get a heads up on this. You know, you can do it all on YouTube. You can listen to him lecture on YouTube. But if you want to read the book, you know, and it's always nice to get a hard copy book and read it. You know, $45 for this sucker. Not something I could easily afford, but I felt it was important. Pastor Joe Fox had, you know, gave it a very high review, and so I got it. You know, but hard copy books, lights out. Now, this book, I mean, you'll see I have it covered with clear plastic, and normally, I don't know why I didn't. There normally would be like hundreds of turned down pages in this book. There will be by the time I'm done this time. Maybe I read it online to my family. We read that out loud to our family. I did. The whole thing, 611 pages or something. Here's another one. The Other End of the World. This book is so awesome that a guy asked the widow, the guy's name that wrote it is Roger Rusk, Dean Rusk of this. He was the Secretary of State under Nixon or something like that. Kennedy maybe, but I think Nixon, if I'm not mistaken. Wrote that book, and it was such an awesome book that this man, after he passed away, Leon Hyatt, asked Rusk's widow if he could print it and distribute it free of charge, and he gave away hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of copies of it. I would get 3 and 4 cases at a time back when. And the only 2 or 3 I had left ended up in our shed and water damage, and this is one that I fished out. You know, I got probably several $100,000, maybe a million. You know, I got a bunch of books that are at risk, so I need to get a Connex. If anybody's out there praying, and I think there are people praying for me, pray that I can get a shipping container over to our farm and get that stuff out of, you know, get the books and everything out of there. Survival gear. I mean, like I went over one day and picked up something that is probably right now sells for $1,000. And the other day I was like, wonder where that is. I have, right now I have no clue. I do not know where it's at. So, the water filter. So anyway, John Casey, get the book. If you're into book reading, hard copy stuff, get it. But the thing about this guy, along rather forecasting, he'd studied the sun until he should have been blind and had figured out that just about everything related to the sort of weather farmers cared about came down to solar output. Forget CO2. It was all the sun. And this is a fact. And we're going to learn this to our detriment. Because what's going to happen is history is repeating itself right now as I speak. Grand solar minimum. Learn about it. Study it. Read it. Get the book. Whatever. Do it online. Watch YouTubes. I don't care. But history is repeating itself for the umpteenth time. We've got the graphs. You know, 1600s they walked across the Baltic Sea and invaded Denmark, and the Swedes did. And grand solar minimum. Last one was the Maunder minimum, and the Mormons walked across the Mississippi. It was frozen solid. Okay, everything walked across. So, yeah, big time. We all know that now. Most of you probably know who I'm talking about. Damn, why can't I remember his name? John Casey, go for that, you know. Just, Anyway, Dad sent me this article. It was complicated. I had to dredge up some long-stored memories from my weather and agriculture classes, but I finally figured it out. Basically, the guy was being very cautious in saying that our friend, the sun, had turned off, or turned down. Oh, not completely, but his predictions were way more cautious than normal and just plain dismal for the next growing season. He even put a caveat in the end. I recall it to this day, quote, based upon these indicators, NYP next year predictions indicate significant chance of severe cooling regimes. One more page and then we're done. Severe cooling regimes, that would be 2019. Okay, class? I don't need to tell you what year it is right now, 2018. This was not science fiction. I've read so much science fiction that you sometimes make the mistake of assuming, and assuming makes an ass out of you and me. I assumed this was science fiction. Now, I'd heard, you know, I did have other O-rings. One of my favorite authors, James Stivers, in mentioning global warming, he said global warming always precedes an ice age, a mini ice age. So, I mean, I've had that in the back of my mind. I just wasn't paying any attention. I got so many things on the plate, you know, so many things I'm trying to do, so many things I'm trying to get done. Literally, I would say probably there's 2,000 areas of study that I've investigated, researched, hacked. In other words, done research and development. I'm driven to do it. I come into something, I buy the stuff to prove that it works. The dart things, you know, the fishing darts. Here's I've done some testing. Okay, I took that Z bow, that air bow that I showed you, or didn't show you, but it's on the back of the thing back there, the blue bow back there, and I took it out and here's an entry hole in this box, heavy cardboard box, because it had macaroni and cheese in it, and there's the exit with the dart. I can't see it, so I even can't see it. There it is. You can see it against white background there. So, it made it through that. Not impressed with the bow at all. Slingshot, much easier, much cheaper, maybe not cheaper, but just simple. That was a hack, but it was such a kick because I had gotten the replacement things for it. Just didn't say what it was. I just thought, those are kind of cool. They exactly fit the thing, so I'll show you all that later. So, all right. But I'm just driven to do that, hack and figure things out. I've got one sitting over here that I've done. So, and that costs money. It costs money to do it. And all I'm doing is, do I need 30, female urinary device, or 40 or whatever, how many I bought over the years, but I put a bunch of money into them. Everything I put about $100 into per deal. And then I move along to the next one, and move along to the next one. Prove another one, move along to the next one. You know, making, on the back of the white on the top of the heater there is a Tyvek suit that I told you in another video. It has the hood, it has good booties you could actually walk in without them getting ripped off, you know, shredded. Heavy duty booties. That's a nuclear radiation biological suit. They breathe out, but they don't let water in. Big drops of water they don't let through, but little drops of water, as in perspiration, they will. You can make a bivy sack out of that. You can obviously protect yourself if you're out in the whatever cold muck grease. The guy look at Out in the Country, OITC. They had poison ivy, and he had one on, a yellow one. The only thing was shown was his face. He pulled this big bunch of poison ivy down and took it out and submerged it in the pond. He goes, now what you got to do is you got to wash off after you've done that. And so he just went out and flopped down flat and rolled back and forth. It was really cute. Had fun, you know, nice video. But this is how you dispose of poison ivy. You know, he took it out and submerged it in a pond. You don't want to burn it. The oils will go up and kids will breathe it in. You'll breathe it in. You know, everybody will breathe it in. Cure for poison ivy is eat it. Eat it in the spring, little teeny leaves. All right. Shut up, Jerry. Bunny trail, bunny trail. Okay, so the suits there, you know, the white suits, important for anything, you know. Zombie apocalypse. I mean, you know, you're going out and dealing with dead bodies or whatever, and that's something that's, you know, going to have to be dealt with. You know, sanitation, keep you clean, keep you safe, keep you alive. So, and that was another bunny trail I mentioned for a reason, but I forget now, so whatever. Those are not bad. They're cheap to get. You can get cases of them. I did. I got cases of them on eBay back when, you know. So but that, you know, one of the points I was making is, you know, I'm constantly doing this R&D, and you know, I can't keep doing it. I mean, I just can't. I've been doing it, but we got to put a kibosh on it because we got to pay for the farm, you know. So there's only a little bit, you know, I can maybe squeeze out, you know, one project in a month, not 2 or 3. So, alrighty. So, nobody has to be reminded about 2019. Nope. And the white suits for snow. Oh, baby snow. Yeah. In fact, let me tell you this. Tyvek. When I was in Denver, eBay or whatever, but I'd get these thrift stores. I don't remember. And I started getting them on eBay when I knew better. You know, knew that. But Joe Camel jackets, bright yellow, Joe Camel on them. You know, they were Tyvek. Only ones you could really find. So you could ball that thing up and put it in a, you know, I could actually stuff it in the pocket of my vest. So when I was out in the docks and it was 30 below zero and the wind kicked up and it dropped it to 40 or 50 below zero or 60, whatever it was, you know, I would put that little balled up Tyvek jacket over my other stuff. And the wind chill that it would knock off was, you know, worth every 2 ounces that it weighed. And it didn't weigh much. So you got a down jacket, get one of those, put over it. You've got a Gore-Tex jacket, in essence, you know. So I love driving down in Denver when the heater would go out and I just, you know, 30 below zero, 10 below zero, you know. And I had a good Gore-Tex jacket on with, you know, Qualifill, and roll the window down to keep because you'd have to breathe out the window anyway. So sometimes I'd just roll it down, you know, and drive down the road, you know, like this. Arm hanging out the window at 20, 30 below zero. Anyway. So anyway, and then there was Dad's note at the end, investing heavily in triticale. For all you non-farmers and non-Star Trek buffs, triticale is rye. See, there's a couple of things about rye. The first is that it's not exactly a big need crop. Wheat, lots of markets for wheat. Ditto, corn. Maize to you Europeans and canoe heads. Soy, always good markets for soy. Beans of various sorts. Peas, we grew it all. Even seasonals like broccoli, all good markets. Rye is a niche market. Not a bunch of people lining up for rye. Didn't used to be back then anyway, you know. Less so now too. Thank God we're past eating nothing but rye bread from the lines, huh? But the main thing about rye is that it grows fast and is cold hardy. Barley also is. Winter wheat's cold hardy, but oh, it's complicated. There's
there's also only so much winter wheat market, and it's touchier than rye in certain cold and wet conditions. Look, I'm a professional. Don't try this at home. Bottom line, Dad trusted this guy enough to be prepared to take a big hit economically on the basis that that was going to be the only way to survive. Farmers are planners. I looked at it and shrugged. How bad could it be? We all know that now, don't we? I thought I was a grown-up. What a flippin' moron. You're about to find out how much of a moron I was in those days. Still I am, I admit, but at least now I know it. And then the next thing is he goes in and tells about the next day was battalion weekly reorientation exercise, and this guy, the medical guy, he's a nerd, researcher type guy, and he tells them that their unit had been picked for distribution of a test virus against a flu. So because of that, his unit survived, I think is the story, and blah, blah, blah. And so he heard about them both, ignored them both, went back to sleeping in the middle of the meeting. Oh, this guy's a jerk, and who cares what's going on with the flu, and I don't want to take a stupid vaccine because they're not good. So anyway, that was it. Okay, so this is Jerry Diamond. If you're listening to this, you are the remnant. Thanks. And I hope it came out.